Hello, everyone. I'm Alan Vay, the founder of Aventus. We've been on a journey over the last, it's been about 5 or 6 years now, since 2017, looking at getting this technology adopted with enterprises. We started in the ticketing business, where we did a deal with Live Nation, I think it was in 2018, at looking at how the secondary market ticketing can be evolved. That went through, obviously with COVID, there wasn't much happening in that sector, so we had done an ICO, had a reasonable amount of capital to deploy in our vision, and having gone from zero to something with an enterprise like Live Nation, we thought that'll become the product. So we found Substrate as the best technology for making that happen and started building out our ecosystem. So in general, I think many of you will be familiar with this kind of migration, right? The different definitions from Web 1 to Web 2 and now Web 3. The real benefit, if you look at how this is evolving, it's very much like the internet did back. Web 1 was basically reading information from servers. Web 2 was then reading and writing back again. So this is where user-generated content took off, social media, all of that. And finally, with Web 3, we now have the ability to own as well, have that sense of ownership around data or anything else, actual scarcity that exists in a digital context. And that's really what we are trying to communicate to the enterprise market, how to best use that notion of scarcity within their different use cases. I think if you look over the last 18 months is probably where we've seen the most, hey, there we go. I think we've seen the most traction kind of come over the last 18 months. All of the consultants and whatnot have been pumping out a lot of information, right? Whether it's the BCGs or the Gartners and whatnot, really looking at what this opportunity looks like across different sectors. If you track the numbers of adoption from the internet space, if you look at how quickly the internet was being adopted versus Web 3, the numbers track almost identically. So we're right around the phase in the world of Web 3 now of where the internet was during the sort of dot-com bubble and the sort of subsequent burst. And it's kind of parallel to what we're seeing now. If you study the internet, right, I wasn't involved in the industry now, but obviously studying it, you notice that right after the dot-com bubble, this is where regulations set in, this is where the consumer protection mechanisms were implemented, and that really led to the explosion of adoption. And that's what's happening in the crypto space now. So we're starting to see, definitely across Europe, the UK, we just heard before a little bit about the US market as well, maybe a little further behind, but it's still happening. And our thesis is now is where the next Microsofts or Googles or whatnot of this space will be determined by how they kind of respond to these regulations and the seeds that are planted right now. Now, there's been a big change, as I was saying. The last 18 months, we've seen people go from a system where it was proof of concepts, people doing marketing releases to jump on the hot wave that was Web 3, but very few deals converting from proof of concept to proper multi-year commercial deals. But over the last 18 months, that's really started to change. We've got a variety of use cases we could sort of research and find here across these different sectors. It's not showing properly. The bottom two are supposed to be IoT and travel. But big brands are getting involved, and not just as proof of concepts now. These are multi-year deals, and we'll go into some of these use cases at the end of this presentation around exactly what people are looking at across these different sectors. Now, one of the most important things that we found in the enterprise market is to separate the use case from the technology. There is, obviously everybody has seen what's going on in the crypto market. The best use case for this technology, or the first most lowest hanging fruit, was obviously currency and transactions. But because of the regulatory uncertainty of this, we ended up in a position where there's all this negative sentiment. So now when you're trying to do a deal with an enterprise, the first thing is that they've read blockchain synonymous with crypto, and all of the mess that we've kind of seen over the last couple of years. And any kind of risk, businesses are very risk averse ultimately, right? Especially enterprises guarding their brand that they've built up over the last 10, 20, 30 years plus. So the first piece of education is separating the technology that enabled the use case crypto and helping people understand there are a variety of sectors today, there are a variety of ways of applying this blockchain technology to use cases that are completely compliant and very easy to help transform them, whether it's helping additional revenue generation in a loyalty space or operational efficiency in sort of supply chain use cases. So that's front and center to any conversation we go into. We always call it out like the sort of elephant in the room, where you really want to make clear that the technology has use case within your business today, or many businesses today. Now, I think this slide is kind of motivation to why we joined this ecosystem. I told you a little bit about, we started with Live Nation and we've gone through that journey. We then, when we decided we were going to try and help enterprises on board to Web3 more generally and build out a generalized technology stack, at the end of the day, most of the clients that we work with and are speaking to don't care what blockchain they're using, right? They have certain technical parameters that they need to satisfy, whether that's achieving accessing as wide a market as possible, certain transaction throughputs, whatever it is. So we assemble a solution and sell the use case. It just so happened that, at least from our perspective, Substrate is the most advanced technology for enabling this. So we built our whole ecosystem around the Substrate architecture, which is fundamentally based on interoperability, right, between the different parachains, letting everything talk to each other easily. We've also bridged this into the Ethereum ecosystem, just because that's where a lot of the, especially on the loyalty side, a lot of the traction is happening. So yeah, this point around breaking out of the silo, it's kind of like what we saw with the internet again, right? There was that whole debate of, is it going to be intranets that end up winning, or is it going to be the internet itself? Is it the private permissioned, or is it the public? And slowly but surely, we've seen in the enterprise market, people started in a private permission context, but more and more things are moving into a world of public and interoperable now. Because, I mean, in the early days, people were like, I could never do my banking on the internet, and now everything, we have it in our mobile phones in our pockets, right? So this migration is happening, and understanding how we can support both a standalone network on a more permissioned architecture, but also moving to the world of public is really important in the enterprise space at the moment. So I think I've already told you a fair bit about Aventus. Let me just go across the use cases. We spoke about this on our panel earlier today. So we've been working with Heathrow Airport to solve the problem around tracking baggage. So if you know, I mean, I'm sure some of you may have had a bag get lost at some point in time. At any time, people don't know where 5 to 10% of these cargo pods are that fit on aircraft. So this is a $400 million problem for airlines annually, just figuring out where their inventory is. So what we've done is implemented a solution to essentially assign identities to these containers and then track them as they move around the supply chain. So this is now, we announced here today our deal with Vodafone as well. Vodafone has a platform called the Digital Asset Broker, which essentially creates, and it allows SIM cards to create the identity and uses cell phone networks to essentially actively reach out and tell you where any one of these pallets are. So we've been running this at Heathrow for a while now. We've proven 80% reduction in these losses. So from 5 to 10% to what, right? 1 or 2% of these things being missing now. Much lower errors, and overall a 7% reduction in cost base, which is significant, especially for airlines that are just recovering from COVID. Now, this is just one of many examples that we'll be rolling out across asset tracking, and really shows you how bringing together IoT with blockchain to kind of manage the security, the identity around that, and the scalability in a world where you have IoT devices with huge volumes of requests. And then marrying AI into this as well. There's a whole machine vision component around making sure that these things are what they're supposed to be. Now, The next one we talk about here, I mean, many of you will probably be familiar with Energy Web. They have an amazing solution where they help, whether it's proving that energy is green or helping balance grids in a world where Teslas are joining the grid, and you've got sort of a decentralized infrastructure, read and write from cars and whatnot, electric vehicles. So what we have done is support Energy Web in rolling out their new technology stack, right? So everything from, well, it was the Energy Web chain, now going to EWX, helping roll out that, as well as the infrastructure on top of it. So this is load-balanced APIs to send their requests, it's data, indexing, access and retrieval, all of that. And the amazing thing to see is, I mean, I spoke before, Vodafone, Heathrow adopting this technology through Energy Web, massive clients, Shell's involved in their network, right, EDF, all kinds of Volkswagen, so really major enterprises looking at not just proof of concepts, but multi-year deals on how they can use this technology to really drive operational efficiency. Now, I've spoken a lot about deep tech. We do have some sexier use cases as well. So this is in the world more of loyalty. The Wolf of Wall Street film, we are working with the film studio that created this. And what we're doing is bringing an NFT experience where essentially we're able to engage the fans and have a celebration around the intellectual property. So there are I think it's over 200 hours worth of content that was filmed for The Wolf of Wall Street. All of this has now been digitized. And we're looking at how we can use that content, a variety of giveaways of the film content itself, but also memorabilia, right? So props, whatever, outfits they wore, the fake money, whatever it is from the film that people will be able to own. All of this will be in a DAO structure to allow it to be sort of community-driven. This means that anybody who owns one of the tokens, all the tokens will be given away for free. It's just a pure governance token for engaging in the ecosystem. And then this community can vote and decide what they would like to do with this IP to generate a really exciting experience. So there'll be metaverse components in real-life events, all sorts of different ways of really bringing this IP to life again for the 10-year anniversary at the end of this year and kind of beyond. Now, many of you hopefully will be at the Beatport party later tonight. So we are working exclusively on the Beatport rollout of their NFT marketplace. So Beatport, if you don't know, have about 50 million users, 100,000 different artist labels. They're probably the largest in electronic music in the world. And what we've done for them is offer them a white label NFT marketplace with all the kind of bolt-ons that you would want, again, around Digital Fan Club. So this is there's so many different ways, and I don't know what they've actually announced. I know they were supposed to be announcing something here, but I haven't caught up with them yet. So I'll just say for now, Digital Fan Club, actually that relationship between the artist and the fan and how you can better engage it, drive stickiness, and really be rewarded for discovering an artist early and being a member of that community over a long period of time. I think I'll also mention, I don't think we have the slide in here, but another interesting use case before I wrap up is video games. So we have a client called Fruit Lab. They have just under 1 million users, and their platform was all around social content around video games. So they have integrations with all the biggest video games, like Fortnite and whatnot, where social media content is generated and you can earn rewards, essentially like a reputation system with tokens. It's a loyalty scheme where you can earn that for generating the content, but you can also use that to compete head-to-head in different games. So building this sort of generalized infrastructure to make that happen. I think they've just done a deal now with Dell as well. So major enterprises adopting this. I think I'll wrap up here just by, the talk is around enterprise adoption and this move from private to public. More and more we're now seeing that there are use cases, especially across supply chain, loyalty, and video gaming, and I know that's something Polkadot's been very much focused on. So yeah, we're generalized infrastructure trying to make that transition happen, and hopefully there was something interesting here for you guys today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alan.